Why is healthcare such an attractive target for cyber attacks? Well, the way I explain this in a lot of the talks I give is using a chart or a graph that you can see to my right and your left of the screen that I call the healthcare maturity paradox. What this essentially does is plot digital maturity against security maturity and shows a gap that illustrates why healthcare is such an attractive cyber attack target. Let's dive deeper into this. The first thing we notice on this chart are the axes, so it's maturity plotted against time. Then we illustrate the first curve to set the scene, which is digital maturity. For this, we apply a timeline horizon of approximately 30 years. And with that in mind, you can see that digital transformation started off relatively slowly to begin with, and then a range of economic, legislative, and regulatory incentives have kicked in, particularly in the United States, that accelerated the digital transformation process for a lot of hospitals and health systems. What that meant was paper-based workflows initially were being replaced with digital workflows, and now in more recent years, this has been coupled with a gradual transition to the cloud, as well as a move to more advanced analytics and clinical decision support tools. Next, we look at the security maturity curve that kicks in. And as you can see, that goes up a little bit to begin with, and then flattens off as a curve very quickly. And the rationale for this is that, yes, when you start introducing new technologies, and especially if these are replacing legacy technologies, you do eliminate some risks and vulnerabilities. But even with the introduction of new technologies, what you are seeing, in fact, is an introduction of a whole raft of new vulnerabilities. Now, let's dive into this deeper. Not only is this security maturity curve flatter much more quickly, it is also representative of more than just a lack of investment in technology. It is a lack of investment in the people and processes required in order to enhance the security posture of a health system to match its now much larger digital threat surface area that has come about because of its increased digital maturity. That is what makes a hospital, a health system, the healthcare sector as a whole, an attractive target for cyber attacks. And that gap between those two curves, we call it the attacker's arbitrage. At least that's what we call it at the AbedGraham Group. And the reason for doing that is it's an arbitrage opportunity. It illustrates a gap that makes healthcare very attractive. It makes you think as an attacker, well, if many healthcare organizations are in such a state where there is this exploitable gap, essentially, if I'm opportunistic in nature and spray my attacks essentially everywhere, I'm guaranteed to get some level of success. Let's take it up a level to a more sophisticated attacker that now understands that they can exploit not only this gap, but can use it to exploit specifically clinical urgency in order to coerce the behavior they want from specific types of healthcare organizations, in particular acute hospitals. Then suddenly they can use that fear of harm to patients or disruption of care at scale in order to get the outcomes they desire, such as payment of ransoms. So I've always felt that this curve is a really nice way, or this chart I should say, is a really nice way to illustrate what has happened in the healthcare industry. It can apply to so many other industries, but it's particularly stark in healthcare. And because of that, it's also a very useful tool to help leaders within healthcare systems to identify where they are in terms of their potential exposure. And it certainly cements our work that we do at AbedGraham, where we are using our analytical platforms to help healthcare organizations to close that gap by identifying the most clinically relevant, scalable risks they face in terms of their digital estate so that they can hit those very quickly, very rapidly, and minimize their risk profile, or at least try to take it down a level. I hope you've enjoyed this video and it's brought a different perspective from how you may usually look at assessing risk, but at the very least, I hope it's a useful tool that you can use to communicate this message to others in the healthcare sector. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this, and please like and subscribe for more videos at the AbedGraham Group.